For our group presentation, our topic is student loan debt. I will be identifying and defining the problem along with part of the analysis. Taylor will be finishing up the analysis along with generating part of the solution, and Catherine will be finishing up possible solutions along with selecting the best solution. So, many students go to school to get a degree, and then someday get a job. Many of these students are being left with debt they are unable to pay off after their schooling. The real reason behind the student debt problem, which Patrick Watson from the Federal Reserve Bank states, the quarterly report on household debt and credit in total, Americans carried $13 trillion in debt in 2017. Most of it is mortgage debt if you include home and equity loans, but much to our surprise, the next largest category isn't auto loans or credit cards. It's student loans, which are now 10% of total debt. Their share has been growing steadily, which would be okay if the debt enhanced the student's financial security, but for millions of Americans, that's not what has happened. Borrowers don't achieve the desired results, but remain stuck with the debt anyway, which causes an explosion of delinquent student loans. So the average student loan debt in the United States is $37,000. This is a large burden to have, even for those that are able to land a high-paying job once they finish school. The financial burden for even more devastating for those that aren't able to get a decent paying job or even a job at all. For those that graduate, the financial burden of the student loan debt at least comes with a degree that will help them along, hopefully get a decent job eventually. But for the 41% of students who drop out of college, this can take a toll on them financially and become very problematical. So, back when most of our grandparents were attending college, the number of graduates in 1940 numbered only 186,000. For the population at the time, this meant that less than 5% of adults 25 and older in the U.S. had a college degree. But by 1950, the number of college graduates nearly tripled to 432,000. This was due to passing the GI Bill in 1944, which provided veterans of Second World War to attend college using federal benefits. In the late 70s, tuition costs really began to rise and have continued to do so steadily ever since. So once students are done with their schooling, they are expected to start paying off their student loans. Loans can go into default when not paid for a certain amount of time, usually between 9 months to a year, and student loans have a grace period over which the amounts have to keep being settled. So failure to pay anything during this period leads to government defaulting the loan, meaning that the debt will require being settled immediately, rather than over a given time frame. When this occurs, a collector comes into the picture to service the process. So this is what in most cases becomes problematical to those that hold the debts. So the government normally has access to agencies who worked on collecting debts from students who acquired loans during their years of studying. So these agencies act as the link between the borrower and the government, and they take charge when a student loan has defaulted, and they employ all their efforts to ensure the debts are paid. So there are many obstacles that come with attending college. The aftermath of receiving a job, but also having expensive college loans to pay off. Many students who graduate aren't able to receive high enough paying jobs to pay off their debt from their schooling, and it has been found that older people that are having to bring their student debt into their retirement. This leads to many college students giving up on their schooling and instead working without a college degree. The cost of education added with the interest rate is very expensive and takes a toll on many wallets and bank accounts. In the news report completed by Diana Hambry, she finds student debt has disastrous domino effects on millions of Americans. She interviewed many college graduates such as Sean Villikent, who states, "Student debt has been difficult for my marriage as my wife and I are both working mainly to pay off this debt. We were waiting to have children and buy a home because our combined student debt is more than a mortgage on a home. This debt has been a huge burden throughout our last 10 years. and I often imagine what life would look like for us if we were not imprisoned by our debt.